I'm George, 70 years old. I've driven trucks across every highway in America, but nothing prepared me for what I saw inside my own son's home. It was a warm night in Phoenix. Michael, my only boy, was away on business. I stopped by carrying a box of his favorite cigars. I thought I'd surprise him. Instead, I was the one surprised. I opened the door. Laughter echoed down the hall. Not Michael's. A woman's voice. Laura, my daughter-in-law. And then another voice. One I knew too well. David, my own brother. I froze. I saw them together, her arms around him, his lips on hers, in my son's bed. My chest burned. My legs shook, but I didn't scream. I didn't break. I walked out in silence. That silence became fire, a fire that would burn everything they thought they owned. I wasn't just betrayed as a father, I was betrayed as a brother, and betrayal has a price. I decided that night I would collect every single cent, not with fists, not with yelling, but with patience, with proof, with justice colder than steel. This isn't just another cheating story. This is a story of silence, of revenge, of what happens when family turns into enemies. And if you've ever wondered how deep betrayal can cut, stay with me, because what I planned next wasn't revenge. It was justice. And if stories like this hit you the way they hit me, make sure you follow this channel. You don't want to miss what comes next. My name is George, 70 years old, born and raised in Phoenix, Arizona. I wasn't rich, never famous, but I was proud. Proud of the calluses on my hands, proud of the miles I drove as a trucker. 45 years behind the wheel, hauling steel, grain, even Christmas trees. I built my life mile after mile, rest stops, diners, empty highways at 3 a.m. It was a lonely life, but I had something that kept me going, family. Michael, my only boy, the reason I woke up every day, the reason I worked nights when my back hurt and my eyes burned. I gave him everything. Every paycheck I saved for him, for his future, for his dreams. And when he grew up, he married Laura, a woman I welcomed as my own daughter. I believed she would stand by him, by us. Family was my religion. Not church, not prayers. Family. I believed blood was stronger than anything. And in my heart, I thought that loyalty would never break. I was wrong. But back then, I was just an old man, proud of the son he raised. I never imagined that the people I loved the most would be the ones to destroy everything. Michael was my pride, my only son, my blood. I still remember holding him for the first time. Tiny fists, eyes wide open, staring at me like I was the whole world. In that moment, I swore I'd never let him down. I worked harder than ever. Double shifts, sleepless nights. Every mile I drove, every dollar I saved. It was all for him. When he was a boy, he'd sit beside me in the truck. He loved the sound of the engine. He'd say, "One day, Dad, I'll build something of my own." And I believed him. I believed every word. Years passed. I kept saving, kept planning. So when the time came, I gave him everything I had. My savings, my trust, my future. I helped him open his own company right here in Phoenix. A small start, but it was his dream. I didn't want recognition. I didn't want praise. I only wanted to see my son stand tall, to know that my sacrifices meant something. And when he married Laura, I thought it was perfect. She smiled at me, called me Dad. I thought, finally, Michael had the life I always wanted for him. A family, a future, stability. I believed the world had given me my reward, that after a lifetime of work, I could finally rest. I trusted him. I trusted her. I trusted us. But trust is the cruelest weapon. Laura came into our lives like sunlight. That's what I thought, at least. The first time Michael brought her home, I remember the way she laughed. Bright, warm. She hugged me, called me Dad, without hesitation. And my old heart believed her. She was young, smart, ambitious, She made Michael smile in ways I hadn't seen since he was a boy, and for that alone, I was grateful. I told myself, finally, my son has someone to share his life with, someone to love him when I was gone. Then there was David, my younger brother, my shadow since childhood. We grew up in the same Phoenix neighborhood, same school, same streets, but we were never the same. I worked, he gambled, I built, he borrowed. Still, he was my brother, and family. Family was sacred, so I forgave again and again. When he came back into our lives, I let him in. Dinner tables, birthdays, Christmas mornings. I thought I was building a family circle, strong, unbreakable. Laura, Michael, David, and me. I believed we were bound by blood, by love, by trust. But trust is the mass betrayal wears before it cuts you open. At first, I told myself it was nothing. Life was busy. Michael had his company to run. Late nights, phone calls at dinner, stress written all over his face. I tried not to take it personally. That's what fathers do. We understand. We wait. But the house didn't feel the same anymore. The silence between us grew louder. He stopped asking me to drop by. He stopped sharing the little things. And Laura, she filled that silence. Not with me, but with David. I noticed it in small ways. The way she laughed too loud at his jokes. The way he poured her a drink before anyone else. The way their eyes lingered a second too long. I wanted to believe it was innocent. I told myself, don't overthink, George. They're family. But inside, my gut twisted. Old instincts. The same instincts that kept me alive on dark highways for decades. One night, I came over unannounced. Michael was gone, working late again. But David's car was in the driveway, and Laura's voice carried through the window, soft and sweet. I froze on the porch. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. I told myself I was being paranoid, but deep down, I already knew. Family doesn't laugh like that. Not unless there's a secret hiding behind the smile. That night is carved into me like a scar. It was late. The Phoenix sky heavy with heat, even after midnight. Michael was out of town. Another business trip. I told myself I'd stop by, water the plants, leave a note. I still had my old house key. The same one I carried on my ring for years. I slipped it into the lock. The door clicked open. Silence at first. Then laughter. Not Michael's. A softer laugh. Laura's. I stepped forward, my boots quiet on the tile. The glow of the hallway light spilled under the bedroom door. I heard another voice. A man's. Low. Familiar. David. My stomach dropped. I pushed the door open, and there they were. My daughter-in-law. My own brother. Twisted in each other's arms. On my son's bed. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. The room spun. I felt 70 years crash into me all at once. Laura gasped, froze. David's face went pale. But me? I didn't shout. I didn't curse. I didn't move. I just looked at them. One long, cold look. Then I turned. Step by step, I walked out. Down the hallway, out the door, into the night air. The desert was quiet. My chest burned. My hand shook. But my mouth stayed closed. Because silence can be sharper than any blade. And I knew then, my silence would become their sentence. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my truck, staring at the dashboard, hands gripping the wheel until my knuckles turned white. 70 years on this earth, and I thought I'd seen everything. But nothing cut deeper than what I saw in that room. The old me, the younger me, might have stormed back in, fists swinging, voice shaking the walls. But I wasn't that man anymore. Anger fades, but silence lasts. So I chose silence, not weakness, not fear. A silence sharp enough to slice through lies. The next morning, I started paying attention. Every glance between them, every word, every excuse Laura gave when Michael wasn't home. I bought a cheap camera, set it up in the living room when no one noticed. I kept receipts, hotel charges on Laura's credit card, Gasoline, David couldn't explain. Piece by piece, I built a wall of proof. Not for me, for Michael. My son deserved the truth, even if it destroyed him. Each photo burned me inside. Each detail made me older, heavier, but I didn't stop. I carried that pain quietly, like freight across the desert, mile after mile, day after day. Because revenge isn't loud, it's patient, and patience was the only weapon I had left. A few weeks later, it happened. The insult I'll never forget. We were sitting at Michael's house. He was in the garage, fixing something on his truck. I sat at the kitchen table, drinking coffee. Laura walked in. Her perfume hit before her voice. She looked at me, sharp, smug, and she said it. Old men like you don't understand love. Just like that, no hesitation, no respect. Her lips curled, as if every word was poison she enjoyed spitting. My coffee cup trembled in my hand, but I didn't answer, because I understood love better than she ever would. Love built the roof over her head. Love paid for every meal she ate. Love raised the man she married. She thought age made me weak. She thought silence meant surrender. But my silence wasn't surrender. It was strategy. I looked at her, steady, cold, long enough for her smile to flicker, long enough for her to feel the weight of the storm she couldn't see coming. Inside, the fire roared, but outside I stayed stone still, because words fade, insults disappear, but justice, real justice, echoes forever. That day, Laura believed she had power, that she could wound me and walk away untouched. She didn't know I was already writing her ending. After that day, something inside me shifted. Laura's insult wasn't just words. It was gasoline on a fire already burning. I realized silence wasn't enough anymore. Silence was a blade, but I needed something sharper, something final. So I made a plan. I met with a lawyer in downtown Phoenix, an old friend from my trucking days, now a man who knew every corner of the law. I told him everything, not with rage, not with tears, but with precision. He listened. Then he said, "George, if you want justice, we'll do it by the book." And so we did. We rewrote documents, shifted ownership, moved every piece of my savings, every asset I had left, straight into Michael's name. Hidden clauses, ironclad signatures, a fortress of paper no one could break. David thought he was clever. Laura thought she was untouchable. But every smile, every lie, they had no idea I was already stripping their power away. At night, I sat alone in my kitchen, pen in hand. Each signature felt like a nail in their coffin. Each clause was a silent strike. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't throw a punch. I built a trap, slow, patient, precise, because revenge isn't about rage. It's about control. And by the time they realized what I'd done, it would already be too late. It was Michael's birthday. Laura planned a dinner at their house in Phoenix. Family gathered around the long oak table, candles lit, laughter filled the room. But my laughter was gone. I had come for one reason. I carried a small black case under my arm. Inside it, everything. Every photo, every receipt, every piece of proof that silence had gathered for weeks. When the plates were cleared, I stood. My chair scraped against the floor. The room went quiet. I placed the case on the table, opened it, laid out the photos one by one. Laura's smile vanished. David's fork dropped from his hand. Michael looked confused until the images registered. Hotel bills, gas receipts, pictures of Laura and David where no husband, no brother should ever be. Michael's face went pale. His hands trembled as he picked up the papers. His voice cracked. "Dad, what is this?" I didn't say much. Just one sentence. "The truth you needed to see." Silence fell heavy over the table. Every eye on me. Every secret now bleeding into the open. Laura tried to speak. Her lips moved, but no sound came. David's jaw clenched, sweat beading on his forehead. And Michael? He sat frozen, like a man watching his entire world collapse. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to, because sometimes the quiet truth is louder than any scream. For a long moment, no one spoke. The photos lay scattered across the table. Michael's hand shook as he stared at his wife, his uncle. I thought the truth would end it right there. But then Laura laughed, a sharp, bitter laugh that sliced through the silence. "You think he's the victim?" she said, pointing at Michael. Her voice rose, strong, furious. "No, the real manipulator is sitting right there. Your father." The room froze. Even David looked at her, shocked. But Laura kept going. "He's been pulling strings for years, controlling the money, controlling the company, controlling you, Michael. He doesn't love you. He owns you." Her words dripped venom, each syllable striking deeper. Michael's eyes darted to me, searching for answers. The boy I raised, now torn between love and doubt. I stayed silent. I let her speak, every lie, every twist of the knife. David finally found his voice. "She's right," he muttered. "He's always been the one in charge. Always." Their voices rose together, accusations, poison, rewriting history in front of my son. Michael's breathing quickened. His face turned red. His world was breaking, and now he didn't know who to believe. Laura leaned forward, her eyes locked on mine. "You thought you exposed us, old man, but tonight I exposed you." For the first time, I felt the weight of the room turn against me. The trap I set had shifted, and now, for a moment, I was the one on trial. I let Laura's words hang in the air. Let David pile on his bitterness. Let Michael's doubt grow heavy in his eyes. And then I moved. Slowly, I reached under the table, pulled out a thick envelope, the kind that carries more weight than any scream. I placed it in front of Michael. "Open it," I said, my voice calm, cold. He hesitated, then tore the seal. Page after page slid into his hands. Legal documents, signatures, dates, ownership transfers, bank accounts, every asset I had, every dollar, every piece of me, already in his name. Laura's jaw dropped. David leaned forward, disbelief spreading across his face. Michael read aloud, his voice shaking. "It says, I'm the sole owner. The company, the property, all of it, mine?" I nodded once. "Yes, son. While they were busy playing games, I was making sure you could never lose." The room fell silent. Laura's fury drained into fear. David's hands clenched into fists, but he had nothing left to fight with. I looked straight at them. "You thought you were clever, but clever isn't the same as strong. And strength is knowing when to stay silent and when to strike." Michael's eyes filled with tears. Not joy, not relief, but the weight of truth and the cost of love. The game was over, and they knew it. David's face twisted first with anger, then with panic. He grabbed the papers from Michael's hands, scanning them like a drowning man reaching for air. "No, this can't be right. He's lying. He's lying." But the lawyer I'd brought, quiet until now, cleared his throat. "Everything is legal, filed, certified. George made sure of it." David's eyes went wide. The truth hit him harder than any fist could. He slammed the papers back on the table. "You ruined me, George," he shouted. Spit flew, veins bulged, fists trembling like a boy caught in his own lies. Laura shrank back in her chair. For the first time, she looked afraid, not of me, but of the man she thought she controlled. David turned to Michael. "Don't you see? He's poisoned you against me. He's always wanted me small, weak, nothing." But Michael didn't answer. He just sat there, eyes wet, holding the weight of betrayal from every side. I looked at David, really looked at him, the brother I had forgiven too many times, the boy who never grew up, and I said nothing, because silence was the sharpest answer I could give. David's fist finally dropped. His shoulders collapsed. His voice broke. "You'll pay for this," he whispered, though even he didn't believe it. The room was heavy, Michael broken, Laura cornered, David shattered, and me, calm, cold, because revenge had already spoken, and its echo filled the walls. The shouting faded, The room was broken, like the people inside it. Michael sat with his head in his hands. Laura stared at the floor. David looked hollow, drained of every ounce of fight. I stood, slowly, my knees stiff, my voice steady. "Michael," I said. He looked up, eyes red, searching for something to hold on to. "You think I did this to punish them? You think I did this for me?" I shook my head. "No, I did this for you." His brow furrowed, confusion mixing with pain. "I saw them for what they were long before you did, and I knew if I told you, you wouldn't believe me. So I stayed silent. I let the fire build. I let the truth gather weight until it couldn't be denied." Michael's lips trembled. "Dad, you knew? All this time?" I nodded once. "Yes, and I let them bury themselves. Because you needed to see it with your own eyes. You needed to know what loyalty costs and what betrayal feels like." The room was dead quiet. Laura blinked, speechless. David stared at me with hollow rage. I placed a hand on Michael's shoulder. It shook beneath my palm. "Son, revenge doesn't heal, but sometimes it stops the poison from spreading." His tears fell, not just for betrayal, but for the truth. The kind of truth that carves a scar you carry for life. And in that silence, I finally let go. The house was quiet again, but it wasn't peace. It was the kind of silence that lingers after a storm. Broken trees, shattered windows, wreckage everywhere. Michael sat beside me, his shoulders heavy, his eyes lost. Laura was gone. David was hollow. And me? I felt older than I ever had. I stepped outside into the Phoenix night. The desert air was dry, the sky wide open, stars sharp like glass. I looked up, searching for answers that never came. For 70 years, I believed in family above all else. I believed love was enough. But love had been twisted, turned into a weapon, used against me, against my son. And in the end, it was revenge that balanced the scale. Not fists, not shouting, not violence, but patience, proof, and silence sharp enough to cut. Did it heal me? No. Did it take away the pain? Not even close. But it stopped the poison. It ended the rot before it spread any further. And sometimes, that's the closest thing to peace a man can get. I walked down the street, slow steps on the cracked pavement. The lights of Phoenix flickered in the distance. Behind me, a family in ruins. Ahead of me, nothing certain, but at least justice had spoken. I wish I could tell you the story ended clean. That betrayal was erased. That pain faded. But the truth is, scars don't fade. Not the ones carved by family. Maybe you know that feeling. Maybe you've trusted someone with your whole life, and they broke it in a single night. Maybe you've kept silent, just like I did, because sometimes silence is the only weapon you have left. If you've ever felt that cut, you know it never fully heals. It stays. It shapes you. It changes the way you look at love, at trust, at family. I'm not here to tell you revenge fixes everything. It doesn't. But sometimes it gives you back enough power to stand, to breathe again, to stop the poison before it spreads. So I'll ask you this. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you thought would never hurt you? What would you have done in my place? Share your story, because sometimes telling it is the only way to carry it. And if stories like mine speak to you, if they echo the pain you've lived through, then stay here with me. This isn't the last story. Not by far. There are more betrayals, more justice, more truths that cut deep but need to be told. Subscribe to this channel, not for me, for you, for the stories you've lived and the stories you still need to hear. Because betrayal may break us, but sharing it keeps us alive.